Hi everyone. I'm going to give you just a brief video introduction to the very first novel on our syllabus, Jacob's Room. All of you have read a lot of books by this stage in your life, and I want you to be able to react to this experimental novel without having too much direction from me. I've called this book a modernist experiment, and so it is, but that's not saying much. One thing you will learn this semester is that Woolf undertakes a different modernist experiment in each text she writes. She is restless, always looking for something new to try, always trying to say better and more precisely what she has to say. This novel was published in 1922, the same year as Joyce's Ulysses and T.S. Eliot's The Waste Land. The 1920s generally are a time of great energy in modernism, with many important texts published during what's known as the era of high modernism. Woolf had written 2 novels previously, both also experimental but more conventional than her later works. Her first 2 novels were published by her brother's publishing house. Jacob's Room, however, was the first publication of Hogarth Press, Woolf's publishing house set up after her husband Leonard brought home a printing press. The cover you see in this image was designed by Woolf's sister, Vanessa Bell. The novel tells the story of Jacob Flanders from early childhood until after his death. The story is told obliquely, through the voices of others, rather than through Jacob's own words or thoughts. You will notice that the title promises an exploration of Jacob's room, rather than his personality or consciousness. That is because Jacob's character is sketched through other people's observations of him. The novel begins when Jacob is a very small boy. Like Woolf in childhood, he is spending time on the beach in St. Ives, Cornwall, observing the world around him and being observed by others. There is a plot in this novel. Jacob is going to grow up and have a variety of experiences, just as we all do. But what happens in the novel isn't as important as how we find out about it. I know it is hard to give up paying attention to plot. Plot is a key way that we interact with novels. But in this case, trying too hard to follow the plot may make you miss what's really important in the novel. If you really can't stand not understanding everything that's happening, go read the Wikipedia entry for this book. But I think you will understand more than you think, because the interplay of characters' voices talking about Jacob is how we find out what happens. There are a few big, important shifts of focus in the novel. One is when Jacob goes to Cambridge, because being at college changes the people who are around him and talking about him. You will notice the difference in voices once he's there. It's more male. Cambridge was for men only at this time. More same age as Jacob, as opposed to voices of his mother and other people her age. More worldly. The next big event in the novel is that Jacob finishes university. He's all grown up now, and ends up dead in the Great War. Do you feel that it's even harder to know the adult Jacob? That's because Woolf is interested in how human beings are fundamentally unknowable to ourselves and to others. When Jacob was a little boy, his mother felt she knew him, though this often came out in comparison to his siblings. Jacob was more this than one sibling, more that than the other. But now that he is grown, he keeps his own counsel more, and so, since we are still learning about what he's like from others' observations, we just don't get the same access we used to have. By the end of the novel, Jacob is dead, and people are looking around his room at his abandoned belongings. Do you think it makes a difference in the way the novel feels that the protagonist is dead? How about the narration? Does the way the story is told change at all? Finally, I'm going to leave you some questions to ponder as you read the novel. Plot is less important in this novel than other aspects. Can you identify what seems most important in the book? Why do you think Woolf emphasizes this aspect of writing? The novel, like most modernist works, emphasizes consciousness. What are some examples of how the novel does this? Woolf tells Jacob's story indirectly rather than directly. Why do you think she does this? And finally, what can we say about the narrator? Does this narrator operate conventionally? How so? And how is this narrator unconventional?